Okay, David, nice to meet you. Welcome, and thank you very much for joining me on the Journey podcast. First of all,
Thank
just want to
you.
say a massive thank you for giving me some time here. Really interested in learning your story, your background, your history, how you do what you do. So let's get into it. So I've prepared some questions.
Okay.
We'll probably go off track a little bit. I'm sure you've got a lot to tell. So I noticed that if I've got this right, I did a little bit of looking into your Facebook profile and some of your websites and that kind of thing. So am I right in thinking that you grew up in Indiana?
Yeah, first 18 years I was there.
Right, okay. So would you mind telling me a little bit about your early years, the sort of place that you lived, and your education, the level of education that you got,
Sure.
formal education?
Sure. That was a long time ago. I'll try to remember it. So I was born and raised in Newcastle, Indiana, which is east of Indianapolis, about 35 miles. And I grew up there. I lived there until I was 17, went off to college at Perdew University, did 1 year at Perdew and got that out of my system. And then I joined the Air Force and I did 4 years in the Air Force and then went back to school to Indiana University and got a degree in journalism and art.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I did. But the thing is that as soon as I got out of journalism school, or actually before I got out of journalism school, I was also married and I had 2 kids because I was an older student when I went back.
Right. Okay.
And
because of your stint in the Air Force.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So it was like a gap year with meaning.
Yeah, exactly. I went back to school kind of being everybody's old guy.
Right. Okay.
So, and I was 25 then. So.
Right. Okay.
But what I did was I bought my first newspaper before I got out of school.
Oh, wow. You actually bought a newspaper, like a local newspaper?
Yeah, I bought the hometown newspaper in Newcastle, Indiana. It was a weekly.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And I just didn't think I'd be able to support my family on a reporter's salary then.
Right.
So
you thought I'll buy the whole newspaper instead?
I did.
Right.
And I worked it out with the owner of that company who wanted to run for political office. And I worked it out with him that it would be a profit sharing arrangement. There was no cash up front or anything.
Oh,
and
okay.
So we did that for about a year. And I learned a ton of business lessons there. The first big business lesson I learned there was that even though you grow your revenue, if you don't have a good cap on your expenses, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. And
that's what happened to us. So we learned a lot about that.
Right. Okay. So it was like a harsh lesson, but so that project didn't sort of pan out in the end.
Well, it didn't pan out financially, which is always your business goal, right?
Exactly.
But
yeah.
We won all kinds of awards, and what happened with that was it was like a 10-month MBA for me.
Right.
So I learned a lot about business, and I learned a lot about journalism, and I left that newspaper, and because of the reputation we'd built in just 10 months by doing a great job, it catapulted me into major metro newspapers, and so I went from a little weekly newspaper to a daily newspaper, a metro newspaper in Rochester, New York. And then I became one of the consulting editors for USA Today when it first came out.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Well, that brings me very neatly on to my next question, which is, what about your early career? You've already answered it partly, but your early career, what kind of jobs you did as a younger man. I noticed as you've just been talking that you did a lot of journalism, and on your Facebook profile, it looks like you were CEO of a few different kinds of companies. So just a little bit more information about that sort of, I guess for you would be from 27 onwards.
Well, actually, I can go all the way back to when I'm like 13.
Oh.
So I was in a family of 9 kids.
Oh, wow.
And so if I wanted anything, I had to go work for it and make my own money.
Exactly the same for me, yeah. I was working from 13 as well myself, yeah. If I wanted a pair of sneakers, I had to go and work to get them, yeah.
That's right. So I sold seeds, I sold cards, I sold anything I could sell door to door in my neighborhoods,
Oh, wow.
And that was my first little inkling of how to make money by yourself, kind of thing. And then I baled hay when we lived in the country, and I worked with the neighbor's pig farm. I did all kinds of things.
Oh, wow! So you really put
that was my younger days.
Yeah, you really put the hard hours in as from the beginning, really, I suppose, which is brilliant.
I did.
Yeah, great. So yeah, beyond that.
So I did the newspaper world until I was, how old was I? I guess I was 35 when I was doing the newspaper world. And I left that business. I loved the newspaper world. I still love the newspaper world. It's one of those kind of things that you're kind of born to do.
Yeah.
And always being a writer and a photographer as well. I was a very good photographer as well.
Yeah.
So always being a writer and a photographer, I wanted to tell stories, and I grew up in a storytelling family.
Right.
It was just a big history of that in my family. And so it came naturally. The storytelling part came naturally. I really, really, really enjoyed doing that.
Yeah.
But the newspaper business got to me because it was, I would go home angry every day because of all the bad news.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I know. I kind of feel that myself these days. I've turned a lot of my news notifications off on my phone because it just seems to be just bad story after bad story after bad story. I imagine it must be very, very similar to, I don't know, being a doctor on an emergency ward or something where you're just seeing negativity all the time. It must be very draining.
It is. Plus, it is incredibly fast-paced. You go, and this was a morning newspaper, so I always worked until midnight every night at the newspaper,
Wow.
and I was always on call at the newspaper. So I'd go in about 10 o'clock in the morning, and we would have to put a paper together, a 64-page newspaper that was absolutely blank at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And we would put that together and roll it out by midnight. So it was a constant 24-hour day line.
Yeah.
I tell people that working in the newspaper business like that was like building a car on the assembly line, and then you get to you build up to get driving it off and going to pick up your date at night and then crashing because that was like a new car every day. You just had to really
I've always been fascinated by how a team of people can come together to put something like a newspaper together in a 24-hour, less than a 24-hour period, really, especially in an age that which I'm guessing predated sort of like cloud-based work environments where you're all in one office. It must have been like a trading floor on Wall Street or something like.
A lot like that.
Yeah,
a lot like that. And if something happened, you threw everything out and started over. That was the thing that was amazing. So it really taught me how to adapt really well. And it taught me how to work fast. And the unfortunate thing about it, though, is that I can only work under deadline today. So my focus, it's really hard for me to plan something long term.
Yeah.
Because I only pay real close attention when your focus has to come down like this.
Yeah.
And that there is actually a term for this, and I didn't know it until a couple of years ago, and it's called tunneling. Tunneling. Tunneling, tunneling, right?
Yeah.
And what that means is the closer you get to the deadline, and this is a marketing lesson, by the way, the closer you get to the deadline, the more focused you become on that task. So that's why we use countdown timers, because the more focused that people get to the end of it, your sales probably 50 to 75% of your sales probably happen in the last day. And that's what happens.
We usually run for most of our paid products sort of 3-day campaigns. And I would say probably 40% of sales come in the last 6 hours.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's that tunneling thing.
Yeah. It's funny you mention this as well, because I sort of went a little bit wayward for a few years in my recent history, and what's got me back into a position to be able to manage to do things like this and manage multiple programs and all of my social media accounts has been routines, schedules. I was diagnosed with ADHD 2 years ago. Been living with that my whole life without realizing it. And obviously I would be the kind of person who would start a project and then I'd come up with another idea and I'd move on to something else without actually finishing it. And now that I structure my days in the ways that you're talking about, I'm just so much more productive. So yeah, it really does work.
I tell you, I've got on my website, on my blog, I write long, in-depth blog posts.
Right.
And one of them is called You're a Starter, Not a Finisher. And that was the turning point for me in online business, is when somebody actually confronted me about that. Craig Breen, I don't know if you know him, but he actually confronted me about that and said, you, my friend, are a starter, not a finisher.
Yeah.
And all it did was really piss me off.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, it's
but it changed
a harsh truth. Yeah, it's a harsh truth, but that perfectly describes me. Without this structure, like now I'm running off calendars and timetables and job lists, and
right.
without those, I would absolutely be a starter, not a finisher.
Well, I'm naturally that way, and now that I know it, I really have to work hard at giving myself deadlines that are real.
Yeah.
So that works.
Yeah. Right. So after the newspaper, you part of your career.
After the newspaper, I had my second big business.
Right.
I had the newspaper before. I was in the corporate world with the newspaper for about 17 years. Then I left the newspaper and I started a stock photography agency. And this was in 1989.
Oh, wow.
And so in 1989, I started this stock photography agency, and I worked with 150 photographers and managed 300,000 images. And this was back in the day when somebody in New York wanted a photograph, and we had it. I had to put it in a FedEx box and send it to them. There was no transmission or anything like that.
What's the big one called online? The main one. I forget the name.
Deposit Photos, Getty.
Getty, that's the one I'm thinking of. So essentially, you're talking about a pre-digital version of Getty Images, where you were literally mailing out images. Wow, that is incredible. Exactly.
In fact, when Getty came around, Getty came into the digital world fully. They didn't start until it became digital.
Right.
In '89, I was in the stock photo business, where it was all hand pulled images and delivered and edited and all that kind of stuff. No computer except for keeping track of.
So how would someone then use those images? Let's say in something like a newspaper or a magazine. How would that work?
So this is a lesson in adapting to the market as well, because when I first started in '89 with that, the average price of renting a picture, one-time use, was $267.
Right.
The average price was $267. So by the time I sold my company to an agency in London, by the way, 6 years later, the price had dropped to about $10. Because from '89 to '95, about 1993, digital photography hit the world. Right. And so the price dropped like a rock.
And I'm assuming also,
get out of it.
Yeah, I'm assuming also a sudden, because I can only talk about the English tabloid newspapers. I'm also I'm assuming that there was an influx in paparazzi as well, so freelance photography. So there became much more photographs available, I would imagine.
Yeah, not until the digital camera really took off in the mid to late 2000s, and then of course when the iPhone came out, everybody was a photographer, right?
Yeah, everyone.
So the thing is about this lesson about the adapting was that I learned so much. Again, it's one of those things where I learned so much and had a great lesson, and ended up actually. And at the same time that I sold that company, I got a divorce. Right. So everything just crashed for me in 1995. And so I was living out of my car and off of people's couches for about 3 months. Wow. And just kind of floating around. And then I fell into I became an independent consultant, and I started working in the telecom industry, doing mergers and acquisitions as an independent, my own business as an independent consultant. And I did that until 2010. Now I started my online business though. I started NAMS in about 2007. Right. And so what I was doing was I had 3 offices. I was in Dallas, Atlanta, and Seattle. So I would fly all the time.
Yeah.
And so I had places staked out in each of those airports, and I would create long layovers. So I could go in and work in these travel centers for 3-4 hours at a time and then catch my next plane. So I was doing all of my work between flights.
Wow.
And I did that for 17, I did that for 20 years almost. So.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah.
Yep.
So you started NAMS in 2007, you say?
Yeah.
But I started online in 2008, and I thought I was a dinosaur certainly in the internet marketing world. So you started yours before then, which is incredible. So you must have been around I joined the Warrior Forum sort of like 2008. So I imagine you were probably around that scene around that time as well.
I was, but I did not participate a lot in that kind of stuff. What I did was I built a hosting company.
Right.
Right out of the gate, I built a small hosting company, and I sold that as well. About 2010, I sold that and got out of it. And then I got into training. And the reason that well, let me back up for a second.
Yeah.
So doing all this traveling and consulting work, in 2002, I decided to take a year off.
Right.
And so I took a year off. I was remarried, and I took a year off, and I spent the entire year building this house. I bought 100 acres, and I built the house that we lived in by myself. It was a log house.
Wow.
And so it was something I'd always wanted to do. And so I decided there was no better time, and I was getting older, and I wanted to make sure I got it done.
Yeah.
So took the year and did that, and I'm still living in this house and still loving it. And then my wife and I have just 95 acres of forest that we love with a lot of streams and a 60-foot waterfall.
I mean, that is definitely up there in my, my bucket list to build a house. So to move on to the next question then, because it's, I suppose from say 2007 onwards. So I find a lot of people in our industry find this quite a difficult, when they get asked at, say, when like a dinner party or something. So how would you describe your job now? What is it that you do for a living? And I guess you've kind of already sort of explained it, but I've got it in the question, so I'm going to repeat it. How did you make that transition from your past career to now to where you are today? Not necessarily even just NAMS. I mean, what you've done in between that 13-year period.
Sure. So in 2000, when I was building the house, I was getting the inkling that I needed to do something different with the consulting world, because I was living in Atlanta, and I felt like I was being smothered by the hustle and bustle of all of that. And I'm a country boy at heart.
Yeah.
So my wife and I decided we would take this year off. We both quit our jobs. We both, on a spur of a moment, we sold our house in Atlanta. We sold everything we had, and we moved to near her mother in North Alabama. And her mother at that time was 80, and we thought we would spend the next 4 or 5 years close by.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And so I got over here, and when I was building the house in 2003, I would work all day and come home at night, and I would study Corey Rudel's internet marketing.
Right, course. Yeah, I remember that,
and I started buying courses and studying and learning how to do stuff online. And that was really, really important to me. Yeah. Because it fed right into the storytelling part of my life.
Yeah.
And I thought, I could make a living telling stories online.
I was going to say, when you talked earlier about the storytelling, the first thing that came into my mind is essentially that is what online marketing is
Absolutely.
At its core. And I mean, and it's really great to hear as well, because I class myself in the same sort of eel, if you like, that I dedicated, when I first started learning online marketing in 2008, it wasn't a case of me launching a product within the first 2 months of me even finding the word internet marketing. I actually went out there. I started because I was marketing my offline business, and I got quite good at it. So then I guess I see myself as a lifetime student of it, which I feel like gives me the right to, which is what I'm trying to do now, pass on all the knowledge that I've learned over the last 12 years. So yeah, there's not many, you say that in a quite an off the cuff manner, but I think you'll find that certainly in the launching world, we're quite a rare breed. People who actually do what they then go on to sell is sadly quite rare.
Yeah, yep, I agree. I agree. So I was doing all that studying, and then in 2005, I decided I was going to do it, right? But I was still had my day job. So
Right.
I had my day job, my day business until 2010. Now, at 2005, I went to my first internet marketing seminar, and it was Mark Hendricks.
Okay. Yeah.
Mark Hendricks, who passed away a couple of years ago. And Mark Hendricks became my first mentor. And Mark taught me all kinds of good things. And you know, I still use all of Mark's, a lot of Mark's knowledge today. And one thing that he taught me and drilled in to me was do the work once, get paid forever. Do the work once, get paid forever. That became my mantra. So I wanted to build products that were evergreen products. And I cannot participate in and absolutely hate seeing products that are delivered and dead within 6 months to a year, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's stealing to me. That is just...
I completely agree with you. That is the exact reason why. And I am the first to admit that the launch cycle can be very addictive. And I definitely, for a number of years, was trapped in this launch cycle. I'm quite glad that I ended up, because I had some personal issues and depression and that kind of stuff, that I just didn't have the drive to keep up with that launch cycle, which broke the sort of broke that addiction for me, if you like, the addiction to it. So now it's all about evergreen products, like you're saying. I just don't. I couldn't imagine doing anything different than that now.
I hope you find this the same. I think it's actually harder to make a living and harder to do business in an ethical and a way that feeds your integrity, right? And I don't mean harder business-wise. I mean harder we can all go out and launch a bunch of stuff and burn and churn and take a lot of money. Yeah. But to me, I like relationships. Yeah. So I want to build as many relationships as possible with the people that we have in our system. And we do that. We really focus on the relationships first. Yeah. And we always are there to try to help people. So that's what we're doing all the time with this. And I just couldn't do it any other way.
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit that that's something that I've had to learn. Sort of playing the long game, if you like. I just think if you put helping people and treating people well first, then the money, the rewards, whatever it is that you're after, the lifestyle, whatever it is that you're after, it comes. It comes. And as long as you focus on that, and there's just no way launching products after products after products, usually with different partners, that you can possibly keep products running, keep them updated. You're only ever as good as your last launch. If you stop launching for a period of time, your customers stop responding to you because you've nothing to offer them. Then you stop. Then you can't recip to other marketers. So then when you launch, nobody will support you, and it's just a completely. I find it an unsustainable business model.
So here's how I dealt with that, Simon. I got into the launch thing just a couple of years ago, really, because we stopped doing our workshops, and I'll get back to the workshops in a minute. But we stopped doing our workshops, and I had to reinvent ourselves here because we wanted to not hold workshops with 200, 300, 400 people all the time, but we wanted to build a membership that was an ongoing evergreen business, right? Yeah. And so I decided to rebrand ourselves, and we started doing more and more launches, and we built our list, and we did this, and we did that. All that stuff was really good. But then what happened was I started doing some launches myself, and I like doing that. I like working with partners, and I have about a handful, I would say a dozen really, that I can always rely on to work with in a launch, because we do really good work. But that's been our focus. And I never, ever promise people that we will do recip. Never. Yeah. Ever. But those dozen people that I find and work with, I always want to know what they've got going, because I identify vendors all the time that I want to work with because of their integrity and because of the quality of their products and because of the problem that they solve. Yeah. And then we promote that stuff. So about half my business is affiliate revenue. So,
Oh, really? Right. Okay.
I love being
Right.
able to promote other people's stuff.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's, to be honest with you, because we've been over the years, as you pointed out, got into the hosting thing, and then you had NAMS, and our paths haven't necessarily crossed until the last couple of years. And the only the reason that you even became on my radar was because I just suddenly started seeing your name like on leaderboards, like major leaderboards, doing really, really, really well. And it almost, so, you know, to someone who maybe, if you pass haven't crossed before, it seemed like you came out of nowhere, when in actual fact, there's a decade of, like, you know, or more of preparation to get yourself to that point. So to move the conversation on slightly, so aside from your business, what kind of things do you like to do for fun or to relax in your downtime?
Well, downtime. Let's see. My wife and I, my big goal in life is to spend more time with my wife and do things, you know. So that's what we do, is we try to do as many trips and travel and as much fun as we can have. Now, we build every fall, we build around our college football team. My wife is an absolute fanatic about Alabama football, and she's taught me everything that I know about football. I'm from Indiana. Indiana is basketball. So, and I also played baseball myself until I was 48.
Right, okay.
So I've always been active in sports and enjoyed that. And so she and I will do a lot of weekends where we will go away to football. And I really enjoy doing that. And then we go to the beach when we can go to the beach. We go on day trips. We do those kind of things as much as possible. Right. So we do that. But what I really enjoy doing on my own is good books. I like to read.
Yeah.
I like to read a lot. So,
learning, always learning. Yeah.
Well, I like trashy books.
Oh, trashy books. Oh, okay. So right, yeah.
I don't read many business books anymore. I will listen to them I do daily walks. Yeah, and I listen to podcasts on my daily walks, and I listen to some business stuff there. Yeah. But even on my walks, I really try to listen to things that are educational and entertaining.
Yeah, I'm really getting into lately. Been getting into Audible and the Audible books, and it's fantastic. I mean, it's probably, a lot of people would say you should be picking the book up and reading it, but I just like that format. Yeah, it really fits in with me. So, talking about your sort of day-to-day routines, do you have any kind of, like, you know, I'm always interested in the sort of daily routines and the structures of people who perform highly, like, you know, what time they go to bed, what time they wake up in the morning, what the morning routine looks like. You know, you see these questions like, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger gets up at 4 a.m. and, you know, all this kind of stuff. I'm just wondering what kind of sort of routine you have. Yeah,
mine is, I'm pretty lazy. Okay. So, I like to get up. I mean, last night I went to bed at 2 o'clock.
In the morning? Okay, so, right, yeah, okay.
Yeah, now that's not always that way, but almost every night it's between 11:30 and 12:30.
Okay.
When I go to bed. Now I can work really well on 6.5 hours sleep.
Right.
So I do okay with that. I get up in the morning and I'm very slow in the morning. In fact, I have my entire calendar is blocked off from 7 until 10:30 in the morning. Just says personal time.
Yeah, I actually recently saw an interview with Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world, and apparently he doesn't have his first meeting with his team is never before 10 a.m., which I just found, for a guy that's managed to create what he's created. I just had, you've got these preconceptions that they're up at 4 a.m. and the first meetings are at 6 a.m., but apparently he's 6 a.m. waking up, first 2 hours with his children, drops his children off at school, then he reads the newspapers, and he doesn't have anything until 10 a.m. Right.
And there are people that are not using it nearly as much now as they were a couple of years ago, but remember people used to talk about grinding all the time?
Grinding. God.
Grinding.
I just
and
hate
to me, that was like the opposite of what I wanted to do. I never, ever want to feel like I'm having to grind it out every day.
Yeah.
I'm just not interested in doing that.
Yeah.
But I do have a list of things that I need to get done today. And here's the other thing is 5 years ago, I was doing pretty much everything by myself with maybe a VA. And now I have my daughter, who is really pretty much going to take over the company when I'm done.
Right.
In fact, she will take over the company when I'm done. And she is getting better at everything that I did than I am.
Really?
So, yeah. So she's kind of sitting back here, and I'm just waiting for her to say, "Get out of the way, Dad. I'm going to take this."
I was going to say, so when is the world going to get to meet to meet you? So someday she'll become the face of the business.
We do, and this is what's happening: is we do a weekly Thursday noon call with our Insiders Club members.
Yeah.
And it's a video live mastermind type call where we go over their websites, our websites, what's working for us in our business. And we do all of the back end kind of reveal. I mean, everybody sees everything in our business.
Right.
And my daughter, I talk maybe 10 minutes on that hour. She does the rest of it, talking to everybody else and about she's great at automation.
Yeah.
And we use Infusionsoft. So she's great at automation. She's good at Facebook ads. She does all of that stuff.
I'm so jealous. I wish I had, like I say, I've recently found that I can't function without schedules, calendars, job lists. And there's certain things that I just have no choice but to hand over to other people because they're just out of my capabilities, really. Or not so much capabilities, more my attention span. So do you like manage a team?
Yes.
You do, and so you're even though your day starts later, you do have like a calendar, a structure to your day. It's not just a case of like do whatever comes to mind.
Well, I have a calendar, and I always check my calendar to see what I've got to do today. But I also know some of the things that I need to get done myself. So I do a lot of one-on-one coaching as well. Okay. We have a couple of boot camps running where we have 10. We do small groups, 10 people in each group.
Yeah,
and those people love the boot camps, and we give them a lot of time and a lot of attention.
Right.
We've got a meeting this afternoon with one of our boot camps.
So it'd be a group call like Zoom like this, where you sort of coaching multiple people, and they'll be asking questions that are individual to them.
Quarterly, we spend 3 days. We used to do this in person in Atlanta.
I was going to say pre-COVID.
We do 3 days. Working together virtually. So that they can work on their stuff, and really we're just there to answer questions and help them get over humps.
So you're literally spending the full working day sharing a video, like as though you're in the same room almost.
That's right.
That sounds fascinating. Yeah.
And so what we've done with that, and it's been incredibly successful.
I bet it has,
We've got people who come into this and been in this boot camp for 3 years now, and they have come in and been in their last leg, their last dime, and all that kind of stuff. And within 3 months, they're making $10,000 a month in recurring.
Wow, that's fantastic. So
that's what we're after.
Right. So
really helping do that.
What you're doing really is working. So that would be sort of someone who's got an existing business of some kind, and you're helping them, or are you taking complete beginners and teaching them how to start a business?
We've done both.
Yeah, right.
We'd like to get people who have a business or at least an idea of a business already. But let me tell you what happens, because this is where my daughter and I work together really well.
Yeah.
My daughter is incredibly detail oriented, and she loves to take notes, hold people accountable. Here's what you're working on. She gets in the back ends of their businesses and figures out what they need and works with them on all of that stuff. And she watches their businesses. She watches their numbers like it's her own.
Wow. What a great service.
She can tell somebody about their business why they need to be doing things differently that they don't even know. And so she can do that. Yeah. I, on the other hand, am the big picture guy. I'm the one who can stand above and look at their business, and this has happened several times, where I'll look at the business that they have and I'll say, wait a minute, you got this. Why don't we do this? Do it over here. And all of a sudden they're making more money because they're more focused. Right? And so we've really been able to help people do that. It's a great team effort, but we also have, my daughter then runs a team of about 4 or 5 people that do additional work for us for the rest of the business.
Right.
And so she and I meet every morning. That's the thing. And I do this on my walk in the morning, is we talk while I'm walking.
Yeah.
And we talk about numbers first. What was our growth yesterday? What was our revenue yesterday? What's our list building efforts doing? all of these things. So we really talk numbers, and she is a real numbers geek, and I love that. And I'm, as the CEO of the company, I really only care about the numbers, right?
Yeah. What kind of things are you doing for generating leads if you're not? So aside from launching, like what channels do you focus on? Is it Facebook paid advertising, organic? I know you said you do a lot of blog, so I'm assuming in your company there's quite a lot of content creation going on.
There is,
considering your background.
And there's a huge mistake that we made. We did not focus on SEO until a couple of years ago.
Right.
In fact, probably a year and a half ago. And so what we've been doing is going back through our massive website and SEOing every blog post that we have already when we should have done it long ago.
I do not envy the person doing that. Yeah, it's such an easy mistake to make for someone who's when your focus is on just creating high quality content, it can be quite easy to forget about the fact that really what that is a marketing tool, I suppose. So
that's right.
Hard lesson to learn.
So we've been doing that a lot, and we're getting a lot better at that, actually getting organic.
Right.
Now, we grew our list a bunch, we grew our list a bunch with Facebook advertising. That really worked well for us for a while.
Yeah, I found the only issue with Facebook advertising that I found over certainly the last few months is random limitations on accounts. For example, it happened to my account last week. An account that I've been using for a long time, had some great ads that were performing really well, just about to start scaling, made a payment with a credit card, with a card that I hadn't used before, and they flagged it as suspicious activity, and they're saying because of coronavirus it can take them up to 30 days to reply to tickets.
Right.
So I've just not found it very, very reliable, but YouTube ads is where I'm definitely going to be putting a lot of focus into. It's for me, certainly as like someone who makes a lot of video, it's great. And also, obviously growing channels organically as well is probably where I'm gonna focus on my lead generation, I would have thought. Yeah.
So, doing multiple things like Facebook ads, YouTube ads, Google ads, we're getting into all of that as well. We've been doing some of that. We're getting more and more into all of that. But we're really focusing on the organic as well. And we've got about 40 lead magnets that we
have available. Yeah.
Now our website, mynams.com, is a massive website with about 60 courses in it. So what we do with all of that stuff is try to put a lead magnet on the front of every one of those so that we can do more communication out to people.
Right. So this would be some kind of pop over lead magnet giveaway,
or Facebook
kind of thing,
post or those kind of things. Yeah.
Right. Wow. Okay. Okay. So, what about? I know you talked about walking and you reading. What about keeping your mind and your body healthy? Is that something that you're even particularly focused on, or is it something?
Very much.
You are good.
Very much. I'm 68 years old. Just turned 68. And I like to think I'm a young 68. My mind is young. I never see myself as being old.
Yeah.
And so I do a lot of walks. I'm always interested in new things. I do a lot of reading so that I can be interested in new things. I know that I'm slowing down. That's just the way it works when you get older.
Yeah.
But I usually walk between 3 and 5 miles every morning.
Wow.
And my wife is very, very healthy.
Yeah.
She's a cancer survivor, 20-year cancer survivor.
Oh, wow.
So she's very focused on her health. We eat mostly plant-based.
Oh, okay.
And so we really try very hard to watch our diet as well as our exercise.
Yeah.
But, I try to stay around young people as much as possible too, because I want to stay active. Right?
Yeah.
So that's important to me.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of friends online that I really try to engage with as well. So that helps me a lot as well.
Yeah. So where do you start? I mean, I don't in these podcasts. I don't like talking about religion as such, but spirituality kind of stuff. Mindset. Do you do anything like? Are you into meditation or anything?
I do.
You do that, right? Yeah. So do I.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
My morning starts with morning meditation. I try to end the day with at least sitting and thinking a little bit about my day and what I did during that day, and did I make mistakes? Listen, let me tell you one little thing about the mind thing. I grew up, like I said, in a family of 9 kids, and so I got pretty. I was not a nice person. Let me put it that way. Right. I was not a nice person for many years. I was always focused on what I could get from other people, that kind of thing. Yeah. And I really had to work on that. I went through a real metamorphosis maybe 20, 25 years ago, where I really had to stop worrying about what I was getting and focus on what other people are getting.
I can totally relate to that. And I feel, to be honest, I feel that's exactly where I am right now. I mean, I can be sort of honest enough to say that I have definitely not been the best person that I can be over the years, and had issues with mental health, addiction, that kind of stuff, which I'm now through and past. But definitely, like you say, just there seems to be, and I don't know, 25 years ago, I can't work out in my head exactly how much older you are than me, but it seems to be this sort of like mid to late 30s where people tend to start seeing life a little bit differently, and I think I'm going through that exact metamorphosis as you say right now, which is
for me it was when I was about 45, right, between 40 and 45, right. And what I realized at that time was I was going to be lonely and angry if I did not change the way that I was behaving. Yeah. But I will tell you that sometimes I'm a very opinionated person. I have strong opinions. I just try not to let them out as much anymore. Yeah. Right. So I really do a lot of I have to do that meditation, and that meditation and prayer is what I do in the morning, basically, to get my day started. A lot of reading in the morning to get my day started the right way. And the other thing that I make sure that I do every morning is I watch something that makes me laugh, because if I can't laugh in the morning, it's going to be a bad day.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I start. It sounds like we've got a lot more in common than I realised. I also, my alarm goes off at 6:30. First 20 minutes is meditation. Then I do a 40-minute, little bit of a workout. And like while I'm doing the workout, I'm always got on YouTube, but in the background something like a bit of a Ricky Gervais podcast or something. Something to just like get those. And it's like there's something about laughing and comedy that just gets me fired up, and then by the time I'm out of the shower and I'm sat down at my desk, I just feel the energy levels just feel like
it puts you on a different plane. When you laugh, it puts you on a different plane. Yeah,
I totally agree with you. So this is a kind of the opposite of that, really. And you've already spoke about some of it, but anything that you're obviously comfortable to talk about, have you had any major struggles in your life that you're comfortable to talk about? And if so, how you overcame them?
Yeah, so here's a lesson that I've learned from my 68 years on the earth. Every time, I can look back now and see that every time that I had something that I thought was devastating in my life, it turned out to be the stepping stone to the next right thing, whatever it was. So if I can walk through the day and realize what looks bad today is going to be a plus tomorrow, that's what's always been that's what's always happened for me. And with the ability to look back on it, I'm really not worried so much about what's happening today. There are a lot of things in my life today that I would like to fix, that I would like to get. I'd like to add another zero to my business, right? Yeah. Who wouldn't? I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to do what I do and continue to do that. The struggles that I've had, I kind of alluded to one when I was basically bouncing around from couch to couch for 3 months. Yeah. I wasn't scared then. I wasn't really scared then. The most scared I've ever been in my life is when my wife found out that she had cancer. And that was surgically cured. So we were very blessed with that. And that was a turnaround for both of us. And that's what caused us to both quit our jobs in Atlanta and move here for a simpler life. And that it kind of helped us see that and make that big shift. Yeah. Now, that was not easy because we weren't loaded. We didn't have a ton of money. But we just made a decision and committed to it. And the other thing is, when I got married this time, we've been married now 22 years, by the way, this month. When I got married this time, I decided that I had to be a different person.
Yeah.
I had to be somebody who took my dad's advice, finally, is what I did. My dad always told me that marriage is an 80-20 proposition, and each one gives 80. So, you know what that means? That means you're always thinking about the other person. You're always trying to help them as much as possible.
So that you spend 20% of the time thinking about yourself, and 80% of the time that I wish I'd have been given that advice around 10 years ago, and I probably would have not have gone through. So I've gone through a divorce myself. Yeah, but
if you're like me, if you gotten that advice 10 years ago, you might not have been willing to listen to it.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, my downfall with that really was always the fact that I was just so desperate for my to get recognition for my work, and unfortunately, I put that above everything. And it's something that I don't think I'll ever repeat again in my life. So you learn lessons, don't you, as you go. So what would you say is your number one achievement, first in your work life, going back to being 13, if you were like that, and then in your personal life? The number one most gratifying thing I've ever done in my life is have 3 kids. Yeah, you're the second person that said that, and I feel the same way. Yeah, my daughter is amazing at what she does in our business, and she is just a wonderful, wonderful woman who takes care of her husband. Is going through stage 4 cancer right now, and she's able to do our business and take care of him, and she manages everything incredibly well. I'm just incredibly proud of her. And I can't take much credit for her. I just have been there when she needed me. That's it. Yeah. My oldest son, is a retired Air Force captain who started a business with a partner 3 years ago, and they are absolutely going to change the internet. Really? They're going to change the way we communicate. They have a business that is hooking up with Verizon, and they've already gotten $1 billion contract from the Department of Defense. And he is really doing things that I could never imagine. So there are some strong genes in your pool from your ancestry somewhere along the line, aren't they? That's for sure. Yeah, and my youngest son he's in the Navy. He's 14 years in the Navy. He's got a beautiful wife and a beautiful family. And he is one of the most caring, loving husbands I've ever seen in my life. So, it sounds like you've got an absolutely huge amount to be grateful for in your life, which I do. I suppose is the key, isn't it? I mean, it's not. I can't remember who said it, but there's two phrases that always stand out with me. One of them is nobody ever lay on the deathbed wishing they spent more time at work, and the other thing is it's what makes us happy in life is not what we get, it's what we become. Yeah, I agree with that. And the other one, I would tell you something else. This is one of my favorite phrases. One of my favorite phrases that I use all the time, and it did not work in the corporate world, by the way, is if I'm not the problem, there is no solution. If I'm not the problem, there is no solution, because the only thing I can change is me, right? Yeah, yeah. So I always have to remember that I have to adapt to everything. Yeah. And I may not be happy with what somebody else is doing, but I can't change them. I know. So I have to change the way I react. It's took me such a long time as I've grown as a person to accept that I can't control the way other people act, and the only thing I can actually control is myself and how I react to other people. It's kind of the only thing you've got, really, isn't it? Yep. So what would be the number one advice that you would give to your younger self regarding being the best person that you could be to succeed in all aspects of your life, your family life, your business, everything? Shut up and listen. That's short but sweet. And I spend more time. Shut up and listen. Yeah. What did he say? We were given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. That's right. Yeah. That's right. That's fascinating. Right, now this one is more tricky because you and I started certainly in you've been around digital marketing for longer, but getting started, going back to sort of pre-2010 was much easier, I believe, certainly in the IM niche, not necessarily just building a website, but in the IM niche. What advice would you give to anybody starting today? Because obviously to become an affiliate, to promote a launch, they need email lists. Where did they get that email list from? How would someone get started in this modern sort of digital marketing world?
So I actually think I did it right. And I teach people to do it this way as much as possible. The first thing is set realistic expectations. You're going to see people out there beating their chest all over the place, and standing in front of a Lamborghini and all of that crap. And it doesn't mean anything. It means absolutely nothing. Yeah. They're just trying to sell you the hype, and that's great. But do not compare yourself to those people at all. Yeah. Figure out what you want out of your life and stay focused on that. So that's the first thing I tell people. We actually have a course about doing that. It's a course that it's called Camp Clarity, and it is a course that absolutely takes you through the process of figuring out what your values are and what your core values are, and how to build a system that works around your core values to get you where you want to go. Yeah. The second thing that I would say is, and this is the part that I think I did right, and a lot of my insiders are doing right as well, is keep your job and build your business until you have to make a decision. Yeah. To go one way or the other. In 2010, I decided to give up my consulting business, which was paying me $250,000 a year at that point. Cash every month, $250,000 a year. And it was consistent. It'd been working that way for 10 years. I was making really good money. And I decided in 2010 I was going to step aside because I could no longer do that and grow my online business where I was completely in control. So did you make that decision at a point where you were able to replicate that financial income, or you knew that if you didn't stop the day job, you were never going to be able to get to that point? Was there an element of risk in the decision? Yeah. So for me, it was 50% of the income. I replaced 50% of the income. Right. That was enough for us to live on, and I built this house. So it was enough for us to live on, and I realized that if I was going to grow it to $250,000 or $1 million or whatever I wanted, that I was going to have to put more attention to that. Yeah. And so that's what I did. And that's when I made that decision. And by the way, that decision was easy for me because it came up at the end of a contract, and it was at Christmas time. And I just said, I think I don't want to renew the contract for next year. So it was a natural breaking point. Yeah. I also think, like you say, if you got to that halfway mark, you've kind of got enough signs there that if I have more hours in a day to be able to do more of what I can see is working, then I'm going to get that. I'm going to get there. But yeah, it is. I totally agree with you. I think people, unfortunately, the world we're in right now, there's a lot of unemployed people. So there's going to be a lot of people desperately looking around for a system, a strategy, which is, I feel, is probably not the right mindset, because there's going to be a lot of sharks out there ready to feed. Yeah. So Simon, here's what I tell people who come in and they've lost their job and they don't have any money and they're desperate. They've got a lot of debt. And they always come to me and say, I want to make money fast. I need to make $10,000 fast. How am I going to do that? And I just straight up say, drive an Uber. You just need to be out there driving an Uber so that you can make enough money to pay your rent and then focus on building your business on the side. But you got to have a good base to start with to do that. It's just too risky these days, and the online market is too difficult these days to go that direction. So the other thing I will say before we get away from here, my biggest mistake in all these years is list building. I didn't focus on list building until maybe 5-6 years ago. Right. And that was a huge mistake. I've got a list, a healthy list now, but I could have added a 0 to that list as well if I had really focused in the beginning on list building.
So there's an element of wasted traffic, if you like, for a number of years that you could have monetized.
I didn't capture.
Yeah, well, that's a shame. So I think we're pretty much going to wrap it up. I don't want to keep you too long, but what I just wanted to ask, obviously, is this video is obviously going to go into the whole podcast is going to go inside the members area, but I'm going to take like a clip, something that I would see as a golden nugget, which you've given many, by the way. Put that on YouTube, Instagram. So where could people find out more about you? I know you've got NAMS, but if you any YouTube channels, Facebook pages, web addresses, and I can put that in the description of the videos.
Okay, so the thing where I would send people probably first is NAMS.ws, NAMS.ws,
okay,
not .com, but ws.ws /trial, TRIAL.
Okay.
NAMS.ws /trial.
Right.
That'll take them to our Insiders Club trial. It's a $1 trial. And then we also have at the mynams.com site, they can get a ton of free training there at mynams.com. So
great. So I'll put those in the description. Yeah. So anyway, I just want to say it was really, really great to meet you. I didn't realize at all how much we had in common, even with the sort of being at different stages of our lives. I've personally learned a ton from you. I'm absolutely fascinated by your story. So
thank you.
I'm sure other people will be as well. So again, thanks so much for your time, and hopefully we can catch up again sometime in the future.
That'd be great.
Okay, lovely. Great to meet you. Thanks a lot, David.
You too.
Take care.